Have you ever had a blank with a crack in it, or maybe there's an area that's a bit punky and hard to turn, but the wood is just too beautiful to throw out or burn? Well, my answer has always been super glue. If you do not have a pressure chamber and or a vacuum chamber or a compressor or all the expensive equipment that you need to stabilize blanks, then your answer is super glue. Now, Starbond has been kind enough to send me this parcel to do a brief review on some of their products. They have a lineup which is more than what I have here, but this is just a few of their products here. What they have here is some medium CA, some thin CA, super fast thin CA, and some medium thick black CA, which I've never used before. I have been using Starbond's thin CA for quite a long time, and it is ideal for stabilizing areas of wood that would otherwise just tear out or fall apart. I'm going to do a brief demonstration on a couple of things to show you what I'm talking about. Now, what I've done in the past is use medium CA with some kind of another media like coffee granules, tea granules, basically anything. You can use sawdust from the same wood, sawdust from a completely different colored wood. If you're using maple, you could use walnut sawdust or black ebony sawdust to contrast. There's various things that you can do. Now they've got this black CA, which is essentially, as it says, black, so it will already contrast. If the wood you're using is ebony, maybe this would blend in nicely and hide that crack. Or if you're using a maple, it would contrast with the color of the wood and would look quite good. I think if you had an array of cracks in a piece of wood which would otherwise look unsightly, maybe this would contrast with the wood and make it look really spectacular. And this is an accelerator, which essentially does what it says it does. It accelerates the drying time of the CA. What I have here is a piece of burl wood that I purchased online quite some time ago, and it is now very dry. It's not particularly big, but it has a couple of inclusions there. And what I could do with those is stabilize them better with thin CA, or in fact I could enhance the wood by adding the black CA to contrast or blend in. So what we have here is the thin CA, the medium CA, the black CA, and the accelerator. The accelerator comes with this pump feature, and the three CAs come with a tip with a gasket that goes inside the lid, so the lid doesn't stick on basically when you've been using it for a while. So that goes in there like this. It also comes with a bag each of these tips. These fine tips in the bag give you the ability to really pinpoint where you want to put that CA. Something else you might be inclined to do is to fill these cracks with sawdust from the same wood. So if you've got some fine sawdust that you've made from that piece of wood, you can basically just push it into the crack that you want to deal with and get it right in there, all the way along the entire crack. So that it just about disappears. It's going to be visible, but it's going to be less of an issue. It's not as visible. And then you can get some Starbond medium CA and just put it into that crack. And that is sanded, and you can see that that is nice and smooth and a stable crack now. It will not crack anymore. Alternatively, we'll take a look at another crack here, and what we'll do is we'll put some medium thick black CA glue in this crack to really make a contrast. I'm just using the glue, I'm not using any fillers at all. I'm just going to drizzle that into the crack, let it work its way into the crack and fill it all the way up. And I will let this dry and give it a sand, and we'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like. And that crack has been sanded and it is now stable, and it really does feel smooth, and it's very effective, and it completely stabilizes that crack, and it stands out as a nice contrast. Another thing we come across quite often is bark inclusions such as this one, and you often think, well, what can I do with that? Well, you can fill this with a variety of different things such as tea leaves or coffee granules. If they're bigger, then you could use a different kind of seeds or nuts or all kinds of different things that could be filled in there, even rice in larger inclusions. But in this instance I would use coffee granules, and I have a small jar here of coffee granules, and you can literally just pour them in and put them into the crack and just kind of rub them in. And again, this will be a nice contrast, similar to the black, but it will also have some kind of a texture to it when it's done. So what you can do, you can either use thin CA or thick CA on this. You could actually mix these granules in a mixture of thick CA and coffee granules and push them into an inclusion, or you can simply rub them in and use the Starbond thin CA just to drizzle it over as though you were stabilizing. Now this has been sanded, and I sanded it to 400 grit, and I'm just going to apply a small amount of oil, and that is perfectly stabilized and smooth, so that can now be used as a complete blank without the inclusion and just the added feature. And the same goes for this blank. The crack is now filled with medium thick black CA, which highlights that crack with a contrasting color, and it looks fantastic. I think maybe in tables and all kinds of uses that this would have, it would look very nice, and it stabilizes that wood and fills that crack beautifully. So there you have it, 3 fantastic products from Starbond. You've got your thin CA, your medium thick CA, and your medium thick black CA with the accelerator. It does a fantastic job of stabilizing punky wood, fixing cracks, accentuating cracks, or hiding cracks. So don't forget to head over to starbond.com and check out their list of other products as well.